Update. My 23 male girlfriend 22 female blocked every girl on my Instagram while I was in the shower. Original post. My girlfriend and I started dating in February and moved in together in October. I don't really have anything worth keeping secret from her, so I'm comfortable leaving my phone around, knowing she knows my password. I noticed this morning that my Instagram follower count was off and discovered that every female was unfollowed or blocked. These were all co-workers, friends I made in the army, family friends, etc. I confronted her and she started crying and blaming it on trust issues. I have never cheated on any relationship and do my best to maintain mutual trust. I've been thinking all day while she's at work and feel like she permanently broke my trust. She also doesn't let me play video games with my male friends anymore because she feels left out. Now for the top advice before reading the update. Dude, just leave. You don't need to plan an escape. Just sit her down and tell her you're breaking up. Then leave and go no contact. The fact she doesn't let you game with the boys is already a red flag and a deal breaker. This additional insane behavior is icing on the cake. This happened to me, but it was an ex-boyfriend. He also did it after I told him it was a boundary for me, and if it was crossed, I would leave. After catching him doing exactly this, I calmly walked him to the front door of my house and said, I told you if you break this boundary, we are over. So this is the end of our romantic relationship. I love you as a person, but this is unacceptable, and we will potentially talk later if and when I feel ready for it. And then I shut the door. And that was that. Real story. Why I set that boundary is because behavior like this is irrational and highly manipulative. And if they do this once, they will do it again. I personally have zero tolerance for this because of that. I say leave now because it's going to happen again. Plus, all of the other controlling behavior is screaming this is going to keep getting worse. If you don't set that boundary and break up, you are teaching her it's okay to behave like this. Staying in relationships where someone is doing this right off the rip is also teaching yourself that it's okay to be abused and manipulated, which is unhealthy for you both on so many levels. I know it's complicated when leases are involved, but I promise there is a way out, and it's going to be better to pull the plug now before it continues to escalate and your entire life is up in flames. There has to be a way to do so. Find your inner worth, my guy, and claim it. Because staying with this type of behavior ain't it. That would be a deal breaker for me. She invaded your privacy and messed with your stuff. She's nuts. She could have chosen to speak to you about her concerns, but she got sneaky instead and then wants to cry about it? Nah, get out. That's some weird, controlling, and manipulative mess. Giving someone access to see what's up isn't consent to mess around with your stuff. These are the steps that lead to abuse, Sophie. She has a lot of growing up to do. She has healing to do. Both are required to have a healthy adult relationship that includes trusting her partner. If she doesn't trust you this much after 10 months, she's never going to trust you. Now for the update. The night after I submitted my original post, I told her I needed boundaries while gaming with my friends. This resulted in a bad argument and a breakup. She broke my PC and threatened to give my cat to the Humane Society. The kennel was hers, so I had no way to get him out until I convinced her not to make this the cat's problem. She also threatened my sister for letting me stay with her and started harassing my friend I play games with. She made sure to call all of her friends and family to make sure they knew she was 100% the victim. While I was putting my stuff in the car, she started kicking my bags, threatening me, and tried to get in the car while I was pulling off. I received about 400 phone calls, texts, Instagram messages, etc. I wanted to relay some of your advice to her, but she clearly wasn't interested in taking any accountability. I blocked her on all platforms. I forgot a bunch of stuff while scrambling to leave, and she told me she was selling my $600 Garmin and anything else I forgot. My cat and I are now living on my sister's couch for the time being. To everyone saying, dude, just leave, I planned on secretly moving all my stuff out while she was at work, because I knew this would be the reaction. Looks like you dodged a bullet here. I mean, I wouldn't say he dodged it. He's homeless now and she broke and stole a bunch of his stuff. He could have married her. That's the bullet he dodged. and he should have done what women have done. Gotten the police to go with him to retrieve his belongings. She's an abuser. Never be alone with her again. When/if you go back to get your stuff, bring people you trust with you. Not just because she might hurt you, but because she might accuse you of things. She clearly has no limits. I'm sorry you're dealing with this. Be safe. Tell her that if she sells anything and doesn't return it to you in great condition, you'll take her to small claims court. And every time she collects a check, you'll be getting those garnished wages. Next story. I was cruel to my ex's mistress and I don't regret it. He cheated on me with her for 3 years, and now 6 months after I ended things, she shows up on my doorstep crying about how she caught him making plans to meet up with a woman he met on Tinder. Like, excuse me? She really thought I would take pity on her for being pregnant and getting cheated on when he was at her place screwing her while I had to deliver our stillborn daughter. I cannot make this stuff up. She's that delusional. And she had the audacity to get upset when I laughed at her. I had no idea why she thought I would be sympathetic. I guess she assumed that since we were both cheated on by the same person, I would see where she was coming from. But I've never given her any indication that I'd be a good person to confide in. I despise her, and she knows it. I told her as much, and she started crying how she was sorry and regretted everything, claiming she never wanted to hurt me. Total lie. She knew about me, but that she loved him. I told her to get lost and to cry to someone else, because I couldn't even pretend to feel sorry for her after everything she and he did to me and my kids. I said we weren't friends, just because she was stupid enough to think she was different. I know it's cruel and all of this makes me a bad person, but I'm unapologetic. She and my ex messed with my life and my health, and now her karma's that her delusions were shattered. She'll have to deal with the both of us for at least the next 18 years. If they do it with you, they'll do it to you. She thought the leopards weren't going to eat her face. As they say, when a man marries his mistress, that creates a vacancy. She fooled around and found out. I don't think you're a bad person at all, but I do think it makes her an even worse person to come crying to you, of all people, for sympathy. I'll never understand why she came to me when she knows that I hate her. Here's hoping that the new mistress is smarter than she is. LMFAO. Guessing it's because everyone else in her life wasn't giving her the response she wanted, or because she was rightfully too ashamed and or embarrassed to tell them. Either way, not your problem. I'm always baffled at those men or women who think they're so special that they'll be the exception. Karma's a bitch, but we love her. She learned a hard lesson and has nobody to talk to and came to you. She's a joke. I hope you heal and are happy, especially seeing their downfall. I'm doing much better now. Thank you. It's been a hard time, but I have a good support system and I've been trying to heal for myself and for my kids. I'm so happy to hear that. I stayed single after my ex and it took a while to heal. One day, I'll hopefully find someone who isn't like him to sweep me off my feet. I hope you find that too. They're not all bad, but some need to realize the damage they do to a person. Next story. My dad got my boyfriend fired. My 23 female dad and I had a strained relationship my whole life. He is one of those guys who thinks it is better to be feared than loved, even when it comes to your kids. My boyfriend Tom, 24 male, and I met our freshman year of college. We had a lot of the same interests and a similar sense of humor, and we quickly became best friends. It took us both way too long to realize that we were in love with each other. We have been dating for 5 years now. He truly is my best friend, and I love him very much. Tom is really big on family. He and his family are incredibly close, and he really wanted to make a good impression on mine. I have brought Tom to every single birthday, holiday, and family gathering that I've attended since we started dating. My mom adores Tom. Every time we go see her, he bakes her banana bread, her favorite, and always helps her with fixing things around her house. He plays Xbox with my little brother and buys him a new game once in a while. He gossips with my younger sisters when they spill tea about their classmates at school. He'll help me sneak my siblings out to Sonic for late-night milkshakes. Everyone loves being around him because he is a good man and has taken the time to form relationships with them. However, my dad has barely ever spoken to him. Over the years, I've asked him to engage with Tom more, but he refused. Tom has tried very hard to connect with my dad, and I told him not to take it personally and that my dad is just like that. I came to my breaking point one day when I casually mentioned that Tom and I are considering getting married soon. My dad told me that there is no chance in hell that I should consider marrying anyone until he got to know him. I asked my dad why he was just now showing an interest in getting to know Tom, since we've literally been dating for years. He told me that there was no point in getting to know him before, since he didn't think Tom was worth talking to. At this point, I was very upset. I asked how he would know if Tom was worth talking to if he never really carried a conversation with him. My dad blew up at me. He told me that I was being disrespectful to him and that it is not my job to question his experience. He then proceeded to tell me that I am far too naive and simple-minded to make a decision of this magnitude without his expertise. I lost it. Years of being frustrated with my dad for his dismissal of my feelings just took over. I started yelling at him about how he has no right to talk to me like that since I am an adult. And I have been making my own decisions for years now, that he can't have an opinion on my love life since he barely knows me, that Tom is twice the man that he's ever been, and that if he ever wanted to talk to me again, he needed to apologize to me. I left feeling angry, but almost relieved that I finally stood up to my dad for the first time in my life. I went to visit Tom later that night to tell him what happened. When I got there, he looked really upset and told me that he had just been fired at his tech job. I asked him why, and he said he was given no reason. He was escorted out of the building by HR in the middle of the day. A few minutes later, my dad calls me and I let it go to voicemail. He said that I left him no choice and that he needed to show me that I was wrong. Turns out my dad is good buddies with some in HR at Tom's workplace, and he was fired at my dad's request. My dad has never acted like this to my knowledge, and it seems like he's gone crazy. My dad still has legal custody over my younger siblings and is trying to file a restraining order against Tom to prevent him from seeing them. He stole all of the money in my savings account that I've been saving for years, about $12,000, that I forgot he was a signer on and transferred it to an account I don't have access to. He has been calling the police telling them that Tom is abusing me and they need to arrest him. I have been questioned about this several times. My dad refuses to respond to any of my texts or calls, but he has been leaving Tom hundreds of voicemails about how he will regret turning me against him. We are talking to a lawyer about taking steps to undo this mess, and my mom is starting to process to get sole custody of my younger siblings. Everything has been really stressful, but Tom has been an incredible partner throughout this whole ordeal. I am more sure than ever that Tom is the man for me, and we will be getting married once this is all resolved. Can Tom sue his ex-employer? Might be able to get HR fired. Save that voicemail from Daddy. It's evidence against the company and against Daddy for interfering in your boyfriend's occupation. Your father should probably be checked for some kind of medical issue. Dementia, brain tumor, stroke. But for now, he's a danger to be around. Your father is a sociopath. Follow the legal guidance and get him out of your life as soon as possible. Seriously, OP, file a police report about the money being taken from your account. If he's a signer, he legally can access and transfer the money. It's not a police issue but a civil one, unfortunately. You see this BS all the time in banking. That's why you should always open another account, preferably at a different bank if you're leaving a relationship or dealing with abusive people. Last story. My 27 male girlfriend 27 female is upset that I didn't help my ex-girlfriend 26 female. My ex Leah 26 female and I were together for about a year when I was 24. She ended up cheating on me with her ex-boyfriend and got pregnant with his child, so I broke off the relationship and moved on. I hadn't seen or spoken to her in years until Monday afternoon. I was expecting a call from a hiring manager about a job I had applied for, so when my phone rang, I answered it. On the other end was a woman speaking really quietly at first, asking if this was Justin, my name. When I said it was, she introduced herself as Leah and apologized. When she said her name, I remembered who it was and asked why she was calling me. She told me that she and her ex-boyfriend had gone to Walmart and had a fight because they couldn't afford items for their child. Apparently, he got so upset and blamed her for their situation, then started beating her in the car in the Walmart parking lot. He then told her to get out and left her stranded. She said she needed an Uber to get home. I told her I was sorry, but I couldn't help her, and I hung up. My girlfriend was with me and asked if that was the hiring manager. I explained what had happened and she got upset. She said it changed the way she sees me because she has always known me to be a kind and respectful man, and she wants to be with someone who respects women. She felt that my decision to turn away a woman in need, even if it was my ex, showed a lack of respect for women. She said it seemed like I did it to punish Leah, though punishing her had nothing to do with my decision. My ex and I haven't been together in 2 years. I've moved on, and I don't feel like I have any responsibility to help someone I have no relationship with anymore. However, my girlfriend has been distant ever since, saying she's disappointed in me and questioning our relationship. She's worried that this is how I would treat her if something went wrong and we broke up. After that, she went home and she's been quiet instead of her usual enthusiastic self. I don't know how to bridge this gap. What can I do to fix this? You did a right thing. Why would Leah call someone she cheated on and hasn't spoken to in years in this situation, instead of calling a friend or family member? Because she was trying to scam something out of you. If respect is so important to your girlfriend, she should understand that self-respect is most important, and that's exactly what you demonstrated. It's the only number she knows off the top of her head, or the closest geographically, or someone she felt safe with, or she's recently been attacked and she's in shock and her choices aren't the most logical. I don't feel like I have any responsibility to help someone I have no relationship with anymore. She wants to be with someone that helps others, not someone who only does it when they feel a responsibility. You can't fix it. You are who you are, and she is who she is. There's no right person, but you seem incompatible. She was probably rattled you were cold about someone you once loved because she is not like that. This is the most reasonable response. Opie and his girlfriend have different views and may be incompatible. No one is in the wrong. It's wild how many people are slinging mud at the girlfriend. If it was serious enough that she was in danger, she could have called the police or mall security. If it was trivial enough to call you, someone she hasn't spoken to in 2 years and ended on bad terms with, she could have called family members or friends. Your girlfriend isn't using much sense here. That's honestly how I feel. How do I, 36 male, make my wife, 38 female, tell me who is sending food to her at her workplace on a daily basis? Original post. Details? This is a first, since in 10 years together there hasn't been a single jealousy-induced fight, since neither of us are of the jealous type. I was cheated pretty bad by another person. She knows this and knows I'm insecure about it. So we both are pretty open about our friends and families to avoid misunderstandings between us. Until she started to get all secretive with this specific matter. She stopped eating the food I cook for her because someone pays for her food now. The catch? There aren't any coworkers in her office. She does consultation at her own little one-person place, and everything else is managed off-site by the company she's working for. Now, why am I making a big deal out of it? It was not a big deal, till it was. I was super happy for her because maybe some client were so satisfied with the service that they sent her food in gratitude. It was a bi-monthly occurrence at best, and she used to tell me, "Hey, this client sent me some Starbucks. Nice." Or, "Wow, other client's mother made me a sandwich and some Jell-O." But then it became bi-weekly, and then she stopped knowing who sent her the now expensive food. And nowadays it's daily. She always returns my food to me when she gets home, gone all bad because she didn't eat any. I don't make a big deal, but I stopped making jokes about it like, "Hey, tell them to send some for me too," or things like that, because it started to annoy me that she doesn't eat my food and let it go bad. I'm a pretty good cook and I hate wasting food. And it got weird when she started to show off that the food someone sent to her is better, meaning costly and restaurant made. It started as an annoyance about wasting food, but what triggered my insecurity about this is that one day after she sent me the usual picture, I told her, "Surprise, I went ahead and sent you that from my place." And she replied all annoyed, "Haha, funny. I know it wasn't you." Wink. Ask her, "Who is it then?" Her answer, I don't know." So she doesn't believe it was me, but doesn't know who it was. The second catch? They always send her things pretty specific to her likings. I may be paranoid, but most items she gets are things that she has to tell someone she likes, since it is not generic expensive food, but menu items catered to her palate, or drinks prepared exactly how she likes them. She could be ordering herself, but she denies it, like it would kill her to tell me. She knows I don't mind. I just don't want wasting food. If she's ordering food for herself, why doesn't she tell me? I told her it wouldn't be a problem since that way I can save food at home and won't wake up as early, but she still denies and still doesn't know who it is. It's the first time I get this type of treatment from her. Why be so secretive about some food? She knows it gets worse if you hide this type of deals instead of being just open about it. Like, it's some weird client obsessed with sending me food, or it's my mom/brother/friend/the company. She could have lied like that, and it would be enough to stop me from asking her every time, "Nice, but who is sending you this?" And instead, decided being all mysterious and mischievous about it. Now for the top advice before reading the update. Nobody is sending food, especially expensive food, to their friend every single day. Whoever is doing it is romantically interested in her. And she fully knows who it is. Don't be naive. She won't tell you who, because she either likes the food, likes the attention, or both. Hopefully there's nothing more going on than some free food. Right? I tried to not obsess over it, but she started getting super secretive knowing that's an obvious trigger for me, an overall people who has been cheated, instead of just telling the truth or even lying. I would have instantly believed anything she told me if that was the case, and despite knowing that, she still decides to be secretive. Damn, I'll even be fine if she outright tells me, "Look, it's some guy/gal that seems to have feelings for me. Don't worry, I'm just in for the food." And she fully knows I won't have any problem with it. That's how much I trust her. What I don't like are the little secret tee-hee like that, because I get paranoid about it. You need to sit down with her and tell her that this secretive thing isn't funny anymore, and it's making you really skeptical and making you feel unsafe in your own relationship. If her response is to call you insecure and not explain herself, then the answer is right in your face. "Yeah, I'll do this later when she gets home." If she says, "Okay, it's me," meaning she's buying for herself, have her show you the receipts. Otherwise, she's gaslighting you to get you off her back. And if that's the case, you may have bigger problems on your hands. Had she tell me that at the very start of this issue, I wouldn't snoop more. But at this point, you are right. If she tells me that now, I'll be asking for receipts. Mini update. She's about to come home in an hour or so I'll try to talk to her seriously one last time before getting matters onto my own hands. I don't like snooping, but most of you recommend I will have to if I want some real answers, even if it means hiring a PI or following people around. I'll update whenever I can after the allowed time. Now for the first update. This isn't worth its own post. It went begrudgingly faster than I anticipated. I'm with a friend right now. Ask him for some space so I could write a little, or a ton, and tomorrow I'll be at my parents'. Believe it or not, I'm not angry or destroyed or any of that. I'm just sad and tired and want to puke, and want to write something to vent. You're also not gonna believe this. To the person who told me this is almost like a sitcom, WTF, this is freaking a sitcom? You were right, and you'll see why soon. I told and asked her some of the things some of you told me I could say to her before starting my own investigation. I'm a calm person, so usually, doesn't matter the topic, a talk about it never comes as rude. This is important because I don't want you to think that I screamed at her or something like that. I don't want you to picture me as a saint, but I'm as non-violent as a person can be. Her reaction was as bizarre as this whole crap. Long story short, or a short story long, I asked her why she is accepting food from strangers, and she started verbally abusing me. Don't worry if you don't believe me. It came out of nowhere. It's like she exploded out of freaking nowhere. As I wrote in another comment, yeah, we fight like any couple, but she never abused me or insulted me or my family. Again, this was a first. I guess I was not pressing enough for asking the right questions because I never got this reaction from her before. One of the things she screamed at me was something like, "Why the heck are you pestering me? I bet you never knew a freaking surprise in your whole childhood." No, scratch that. I know you never had a freaking surprise in your whole childhood. So now whenever I get a gift, you get all jealous. Is that it, right? Then she started iterating how my parents were awful at raising me and everything. I told her that wasn't provoked and that I just wanted her to be careful when eating outside, even more so if she didn't know where the food comes from. I'll repeat myself as many times as necessary. We never fought like this. In 10 years, she never screamed at me or insulted me like this. I told her to please not insult me or my parents because I'm just trying to talk. She screamed, "Then what the hell do you want from me?" And guys, I told her the stupidest thing ever, to please eat my food, or tell me whenever you are gonna eat outside so I won't cook. Her answer? Then don't freaking cook for F's sake. I asked her to please stop screaming at me and told her that it wasn't like that. I was concerned that she was receiving food without knowing the source, and I didn't like wasting food. At this point, I was still acting as if everything was about her not eating my food. The whole interchange lasted less than 15 minutes, but it was enough to trigger her like I've never seen before in 10 years. Follow-up update a few hours later. So, she was seeing an ex from years ago. This chick started to send her not only food, but gifts, because suddenly she wanted to reignite stuff or whatever. But no, it wasn't sudden at all. They started just talking like 8 years ago, and the gifts started a couple years ago too. Wife got bi-curious because she, and I quote, wanted to taste the touch of a woman again. So they slept together multiple times since years ago. Please don't misunderstand me. This isn't a post about that. I'm not hating anyone for their preferences. But you don't do that when you are married. Or better yet, you talk to your partner. Hey, I'm curious about this or that. Can we do anything about it if it's good with you? Something like that. Communication. Told her so. But I pressed for her to come full clean. Mind you, this is after 2+ hours discussing these issues. And you are also not going to believe this. After some more talking, she told me, "You want clean? I'll give you clean." Sleeping with her ex triggered a craving for different people. She slept with a male coworker of hers in a past job like 5 years ago. Slept with another male ex of hers. Slept with a chick from a club. Slept with a chick from that same job. And slept with her latest ex. All while we were already married. I asked why. Her answer? She wanted to feel wanted by everyone. Was I not enough? Hard no. Maybe if I could change the shape of my penis on command, but that wouldn't even be enough. Because she wanted to try different bodies and things like that. Why marry me? I'm a good person and she wanted someone as stable as me. Why do that to a good person then? It's only sex, but it's important for me. She says, "Grow up. I have needs. I know it's a big deal for you, that's why I never tell you." Tell me, as in present time. Yes, she was still in contact with most of her F buddies, but more so her exes. Why not try everything she wanted, then date me, then marry me? She told me the stupidest thing. She was calling dibs on me. Guys, I didn't have any other lovers or anything. She was competing for me versus no one. I could have waited for her 1, 5, or 10 years. Told her, "I'm gone then." Her answer, "Have fun." What did I do to you to be treated like this? Nothing, but I'm seriously tired of pretending, having to hide, lie, and you pestering me about this stuff was the last straw. She told me that if I never started to get weird about food, I wouldn't ever know, and we could still be happy. Told her it isn't my fault. She responded, "I know, but you ruined your own status quo." As in, I'm happy like this. You ruined it for you by pestering me. Last question. Then why act all mysterious with the food? If she had just told me, "Oh, it's from the company or a friend," everything would have stayed the same. Answer? Freaking grow up, please. What the heck happened to my wife? I was never treated like this. I now know that my trust for her was so big I was blind to a bunch of signs. What signs? I still don't freaking know. But she said all that as if it was all under my nose. Why she exploded after 10 years? And why just after I started bettering myself for her? Why not before? Or later for that matter? Dude married a psychopath. Bummer. I say the mask slipped, and she went all out in showing him who she is. I think she was baiting him because she actually wanted the relationship to end, but didn't want to be the one to outright break up. Texting him everything and trying to make him jealous is definitely provoking him on her part. It's pure contempt. Her contempt for him overpowered any other emotion she had for him. Wait, if she requires multiple people, why not date a poly person? Or someone who's open to an open relationship? Why did she go for a monogamous person? Because she wanted him to be monogamous, of course. Last story. My wife said she does not owe me intimacy, plus update. And she is right. She does not owe me sex just because I am her husband, but I cannot take it anymore. Sexual incompatibility is hell. I have been busy drafting divorce documents with my lawyer this week. I believe it's best if we separate because we became incompatible after some time. 4 years of marriage, both in early 30s. Hormone test came up normal. I begged her for marriage counseling with sex therapy. I did everything she pointed out. She came with other excuses. Since the beginning of the relationship, we take turns handling laundry and dishes. For the other tasks, we have our own responsibilities for different rooms/tasks. It is not just the sexual department as well. She does not seem to be into having non-sexual intimacy either recently. Countless discussions and nothing in the end. It was not like that in the beginning, so I'm not sure what happened. Marriage counseling and sexual therapy did not work either. She seems happy in the relationship and daily life, but I am not. We had sex only 2 times since the beginning of this year. She mentioned we should try having kids at the beginning of this week, and I got annoyed. What am I? Something kept for only breeding? I will give her the divorce notice documents next Monday, and I am torn the relationship will end like that. I'll also leave the house as soon as possible. However, I am sure I'm doing both of us a favor in the long run. We should separate before having kids. Just wanted to vent and get opinion from a neutral point of view. Now for the top comments before reading the update. That's crazy she's considering having kids with you, and you were considering divorce. 2 people living together yet so far apart. Yeah, it's the most messed up thing in this. That's crazy to me, especially as they had therapy and nothing changed. Why would you want to have kids with a man you know isn't happy? Maybe she thinks he'll stick around with a kid, or that will placate him? A kid would just give her more reasons to not want to have sex though, or his wife has zero awareness of how unhappy OP is. Regardless, it's best if they split up. Having a low libido and being asked for sex often can cause resentment on both sides. Thank you for not bringing kids into this marriage. It is obvious the resentment would grow even more in the future. Having a child in that environment would be such a cruel thing to do. When you hand her the papers, do not, I repeat, do not sleep with her. One poster did that, and she ended up pregnant. He did one thing we all tell people not to do. He didn't want to leave after that. Sure enough, sex stopped right after the revelation. Stick to your guns if you're going to do this. Get ready for the hysterical bonding. It's coming. She's going to be all over you and promising change. Once she's comfortable that you're back, it will go back to the way it was, with most likely a child on the way. Now for the update. She got the notice papers this Monday and she was shocked. I explained her in detail and thoroughly why I came to that decision. I pointed out every previous discussion we had, how there were no efforts from her side, and we are simply incompatible in the end. There was crying and arguments again. I also told her I would be going back to my hometown to settle in my premarital house. It was my mom's, but after she passed away, we shared it 50-50 with my sister, though I gave my share to my sister later. We had to move to our current city due to my wife's job. A lot happened that day, but I will not give details as they were mostly personal. Next day, I started packing important things, and out of a sudden, my wife became the most sexual person on the planet. She came to me with lingeries, toys, costumes, and approached me. I am going to be honest, I had a very hard time resisting, but rejected her advances every time. She is the woman I love and desire after all, but I do not think staying in this marriage will be healthy for either of us. I'm currently staying at a hotel with my important belongings. I changed my passwords and handled other shared things. My sister will come next week to get me, and I believe I'll be staying at her place in our hometown for a while. At least until beds and furniture are delivered to the house. Some Redditors pointed out that she may be cheating on me, but she did not give me a reason to be suspicious of. I trust her fully. I just wish we were more compatible in the intimacy department. She is trying to reach out to me, but I reject her calls and do not read her texts. I may need few days of peace and silence to get myself ready for everything upcoming. Thank you for the advices and suggestions on the last thread. Take care. Well done for being strong when she confronted you with everything you had been wishing she would. That was a good choice. Giving in would have prolonged this cul-de-sac in both of your lives and caused lots of harm in the end. The hardest part of someone changing is knowing they could have been doing it the whole time, but they chose not to. They didn't care when it was hurting you, only when it hurts them. Yeah, this is what OP needs to remember more than anything. She was perfectly capable of turning on the sexual charm but chose not to until it affected her. I commented on your previous post where I told you she'd suddenly want to work on intimacy once she was served. I am happy you didn't succumb to her attempts. It is not genuine. It is a facade, and she will keep this up. Be strong and don't fall for it. It is just a surface-level attempt at giving you what you wanted all the time you were married. It's the panic at work. Once the foundation of a thing has broken, you can't just catch up on maintenance. And it's a lesson people discover time and time again. Even if they genuinely want to fix things, it's too late. Horses have bolted, buses left. Am I the a-hole for telling my sister's kids the real reason she got divorced? My sister, Lisa, 36 female, just divorced her husband Tom, 38 male. It wasn't a really messy affair, although there was some mudslinging on both sides. She's been running around telling everybody he had an affair, but the truth of the matter is that she's been having affairs for years. He finally found out and decided to end things. Only a few family members know this, and we've all kept quiet to protect her. Lisa and Tom have 2 children, Jake 15 male and Emma 12 female. They have not been handling the divorce well and have acted out quite a bit. Lisa has been portraying herself as the victim, and because of this, the children resent Tom. They won't even want to see him, and when they do, they are openly hostile during the very limited time they have together. Last weekend, I had Jake and Emma over when they first began to vent about their dad. I tried to be objective with them, but they just kept hammering. Jake said, "Mom told us Dad cheated on her, and that is why they split up. I hate him for breaking up our family." Exasperated, I blurted, "Your dad isn't a cheater. It is your mom who has been deceiving you." Well, they were obviously in shock and wanted more, and I told them everything. When Lisa found out, she was furious. She said I had betrayed her and put her children in an even worse position than they were in before. My mom said I did the right thing. My dad thinks I should have kept quiet. Tom is glad it's all out in the open, though he too thinks it should have been Lisa who had to tell the truth. Now Jake and Emma are both bewildered and upset at both of us. They're not talking to Lisa, and that's been very painful for her. She says that I've destroyed her relationship with her kids, that I'll never know what it's like to protect your kids from a painful truth. So, am I the a-hole for telling my sister's kids the real reason that she got divorced? Not the a-hole. She was lying to alienate their dad. She deserves the consequences of her actions. Not the a-hole. Kids deserve the truth, especially if they're being manipulated. Your sister's actions led to this fallout. Every kid needs at least one adult they know will tell them the truth. Not the a-hole. She's so upset that you've ruined your relationship with her kids but had no issue doing that to her ex. First, she has an affair, and then she turns his own children against him. What a witch. You did the right thing. She had an affair in her last relationship as well, and to this day refuses to take responsibility for it. So this sort of behavior isn't anything new. Honestly, if you were my uncle, I'll be happy you actually told the truth to me at the moment instead of me finding out years later. You save his kids from hating their dad and showing them their mom is a lying, manipulative, cheating person. This was me. I lost out on having an amazing father because my mom manipulated us from a young age to hate him. I'll never forgive her for that. It's been almost 20 years since I found out the truth myself through court documents. I cut her off and haven't spoken to her in almost 20 years. Now I don't have either a parent. Why do people have to suck so bad? Next story. Am I the a-hole for blocking my twin because she tried to sleep with my fiancé? For context, my twin and I are identical twins but different heights due to childhood illness. I am shorter and more petite due to the illness, but a healthy 28 female adult. My fiancé, 29 male, is now my husband. Backstory, my twin and I already had a complicated relationship due to her not respecting boundaries. expecting me to be available whenever she wanted, and having hissy fits anytime I spent time with my own friends. But then canceling our plans an hour after we were supposed to meet to spend time with our friends. This was a continual ongoing issue throughout our whole lives. I should be available to her 110% of the time, hate any friends I made, hate any guy I dated. I should only want to be with her. Cue in my husband. My husband is an amazing, patient, handsome, fun-loving man. I cannot ask for a better life partner. When we started dating, my twin reacted to him like all of my exes, interrogated him, assumed he was going to be abusive for X number of reasons, hostile, etc. To clarify, my husband is not abusive. My husband, knowing that being close to my family is really important to me, did his best efforts to get my twin's approval. He jumped through all the hoops and trials, and even made friends, or so he thought, with my twin. He is now also really close with my parents and grandparents and sees them regularly even if I'm at work. My twin is also married, was engaged at a time, so we thought nothing of her now being friendly with my husband. One evening, while my husband and my twin were hanging out, roommates at a time / separate bedrooms, they had a good chat about life. When they went to hug goodnight, my twin pressed her boobs on my husband, said, "I appreciate what we have, whatever this is," and tried to kiss him. My husband rejected her advances and then called me immediately afterwards. I was at work. I tried asking my twin what happened for context, and she just gaslit me about it. Days and weeks following that night, she started telling everyone that my husband is a pervert and pedophile because he married me who looks like a child, even though I am 28. And has created more rumors since. We don't live together anymore. She also had a meltdown right before my wedding and has been super petty since. I have now blocked her because she refuses to apologize for trying to sleep with my husband and spreading rumors. Am I the a-hole? She's taking her time, but eventually she'll think to say to you, "I was testing him. I wanted to make sure he wouldn't cheat on you. He passed." OP needs to learn to stop putting her husband in awkward situations. It's OP's mess to fix, and that'll start with distancing from said twin. Blocking is a good start. Next is telling everyone what happened, history of similar occurrences, and warning everyone not to act as sisters flying monkeys. If twin never faces any consequences for being a sister, why would she bother changing? This is very true. OP's an a-hole for allowing her sister to treat her husband this way. As soon as she started calling him abusive, OP should have put proper boundaries in place. Husband is fortunate sister didn't try and falsely accuse him of something. I would be furious with my partner if they put me in this situation with their family. You really wrote this entire thing because you genuinely thought you were in the wrong, or you just wanted to vent? Honestly, more so vent. My parents were really trying to push me into reconnecting with my twin, because now she is all sad and depressed because I'm not talking to her. They have always prioritized protecting her feelings and telling me, well, that's just how she is anytime she acts the way she does. Edit. The people asking about her husband's thoughts on it. My twin essentially has told her husband nothing happened, that she did not hit on my husband, that my husband is lying, etc. Her husband believes her and is also pushing the rumors that my husband is a pedo, etc. Her husband spent so much time trying to talk my husband at the family get-together that different individuals asked them to stop talking about my husband and I because they were getting so annoyed. It's also how my husband and I found out about the rumors. None of my other siblings believe or agree with the rumors that my twin and husband have spewed. Honestly, the only people still defending my twin and her husband's actions are my parents. More edit. I have definitely cut my twin and her husband out of my life. This is more of event post. For those asking about setting boundaries prior to this block, I'd already had many arguments with my twin about her behavior and how I was done with it. She continually stepped over those boundaries. The final straw was her trying to sleep with my husband. I'd ask her multiple times over the phone, with already limited contact, to apologize to him. During the family get-together, it was a final Hail Mary to get her to admit to her and apologize, which she did not. Lead to an official absolute block, only to find out about the rumors afterwards. Despite this, my parents want to try and mend things with my twin, which is an absolute no on mine and my husband's end. Next story. Am I the a-hole for not wanting to mend things with my daughter? My ex and I, 49 male, were married for 2 years and had a daughter before I discovered her affair. But she took her own life during the divorce. I stayed close to my in-law because I didn't want to take away their granddaughter. But that was a mistake, because they secretly hated me and were turning my daughter against me. By the time I found out, it was too late, and daughter hated me. She was fighting with me, broke many things in the house, and ran away multiple times. I tried to explain to her what happened, but she wouldn't believe me. My family also tried in vain. At one point, I couldn't take it anymore and let her go live with her grandparents, and she cut all contact with me. After a year of waiting, I had enough and moved to Canada to try to rebuild my life. She was 14 when I left. Recently, I learned that my father passed away and I wanted to fly back. But my brother told me that my daughter would be present. Apparently, as she grew up, she understood many things and realized her grandparents were lying. She cut contact with them and was rebuilding a relationship with my brother and father. They didn't let her contact me because I was still in a bad place. And frankly, I still am. I'm not sure I want her in my life again. I know she was just a kid back then, and now she's an adult, 22, female now. But even with that, I'm not sure. I need advice. Opinion. Go if you want to go, just don't expect your daughter to stay away. She realized the truth and fixed her relationship with your brother and father. She's allowed to be there and grieve as well. I don't think it would be inappropriate for you to ask your brother if he could tell her that you want her to stay away from you, but he may not want to get involved, and that's his right. Advice: get into therapy. I don't know what happened to you, but if it was so bad that you're still in such a bad place that you don't know whether to go to your family because your father died, and you might have to encounter the child who hurt you, it sounds like you need real help coping and moving on. I'm not trying to be mean or sarcastic with this. I'm genuinely concerned for you in this situation. They didn't let her contact me because I was still in a bad place. Good to know his family has his back. His brother can help communicate to her that Opie needs time and space. All these years of pent-up feelings of hurt and betrayal don't disappear fast. She's an adult now and will be able to understand that her father's healing is just as important as the reconciliation. I love that the brother was looking out for all parties involved and that Opie recognized that his act was selfless and in protection of both Opie and the daughter. That's pretty rare. I would like to buy that gem of a man a beer or two. Maybe my comment won't be seen, but this happened to me and now as your daughter. My dad and his family poisoned me against my mom once she became schizophrenic, and I was a god-awful daughter to her time of need. But I too realized I was being lied to and crawled back to her when it was admittedly too late. I feel that guilt and that pain every day, all the time, even though she's forgiven me and wants us to be okay again. I am so guilty for the time lost. And I know it's hard, but it wasn't your daughter's fault. It was the fault of her mother's family. She already lost her mom. I know how hard it would be for you to connect with her again, but I'll promise it'll be so good for you and her. Give her a chance, man. I know I needed it. I work in social services and have a similar story myself, so I've seen a lot of stuff. I really want you to know that they poisoned you, because as a child your brain hadn't yet developed fully. They guided you to these beliefs intentionally. They brainwashed you. It's not as simple as, they told me this and I foolishly believed it. The people responsible for helping you learn to interpret the world around you messed with your head. The person you are today sees the flaws in the logic. You might look back and feel stupid or feel like you should have seen what was going on, but that's because your grown-up brain has kicked in. Your kid brain had no chance. You have nothing, not a damn thing, to feel guilty over. I'm sorry that you lost those years, but please don't spend the years you do have feeling guilty. You deserve to have a joyous relationship with her now. You can't get the time back, but you can make up for it by enjoying her now. Massive hugs to both of you. Edit. I am quite surprised by the replies. I ask for help with my daughter and what I get are attacks to my manhood. It is quite funny when I received messages of people insulting me and telling me to grow up when these people are reaching out to me and insulting me because they were displeased by my story. A story they saw on internet too. The adult thing to do would have been to simply not reply. Thanks to those who provide answers and support. I really appreciate it. Anyways, I called my brother back and we agreed that we will try to repair our relationship after the funeral. For now, we will mourn my father. Last story. Am I the a-hole for breaking up with my girlfriend after she set up cameras in our apartment in case I abused her? I need help. I'm male 25 and my ex-girlfriend is female 24. We were together for 3 years and marriage was definitely in our future. Basically, my ex always loved true crime, but she was really getting into DV true crime. She had been down her DV rabbit hole for about 4 to 6 months. I want to say before she really started acting weird with me. She didn't want me to have her location, which we mutually had for safety purposes. She was telling her mom, sister, and friends everything I did. She was being skittish around me, kept a diary when she had never had one before, and would basically just be overly cautious around me. I'm not sure how to describe it. You could just see she was being weird. Even at gatherings, my family asked me if we were fighting because she seemed overly cautious around me and was only sticking with the women. It was really starting to get to me, but I didn't want her suspicions to be right, so I didn't do anything about it. She had told me that as a man, I have to understand that DV happens all the time. Even perfect men suddenly ends up abusers, and that I was no different. It really got to me. All I could think then, and even now, is that I'm nothing like those men. I get that it could be anyone, but seriously? I don't even kill bugs. I take them outside. She had never been in an abusive relationship either. This behavior was so unlike her, but I felt like there was nothing I could do because of her position. If I reacted badly, she would be right, and I know I'm not an abuser, so I just took it. We had been together for 3 entire years, and she really thought that I would suddenly abuse her? I've never raised my voice at her, and I came from a broken home with DV. She knows about that. I would never treat a woman, or child, man, or animal that way. A few days ago, she put up cameras and I noticed pretty quickly because she didn't hide them well. When I confronted her, she told me it was for her safety and peace of mind, and that if I wanted them gone, I don't care about her safety. I got really freaking angry, but I got this moment of clarity all of a sudden. It was like all the anger left my body as quick as it came and I understood. All those months hit me like a train and I was over it all. I didn't yell, didn't react, I just said that we were over. I told her that I couldn't be with someone who thought of me as an abuser. I didn't take any of my things, I just left to stay at my parents' house. She's been telling her family that I'm an abuser and I've gotten a few semi-threatening calls and texts from her brothers. I'm really torn up about it, and I'm feeling like a real a-hole now. Her texts range from, "I'm sorry, I know you're not an abuser," to how I never cared about her and that she was right about me all along. Why did she convince herself that I would abuse her? I had never ever laid my hands on her, nor have I ever yelled at her. If something was wrong, we handled it like adults, not dysfunctional teens. I miss her a lot and I'm starting to regret it all. I should have just let her put the cameras up. That probably isn't a self-respecting choice, but I really loved my girlfriend and I understood to an extent. Not the a-hole. This person is unhinged. I'm a woman who enjoys true crime. This is so weird. He's lucky he got out when he did. This was all about her fantasizing about being an abuse victim and setting him up to become one. Even now, she's told others that he's an abuser, while telling him secretly that he isn't one. She's in it for the attention and is in desperate need of therapy. OP should not be alone with her, talk to her in text, because she is going to turn this around on him and paint him as the abuser now that is walking out the door. Not the a-hole. 100% this. 6 more months and he could be walking away with a criminal record after she bruises herself and files a police report. Wannabe victims will find ways to be victims. Not the a-hole. It won't stop with the cameras. Pretty soon it will be financial abuse when you don't buy her a new dining room table. Everything you will do will be emotional abuse. She's already lying about you. I will guess that she is a high anxiety person, but that won't give you any peace. Sorry, it is time to walk away. When you go back to get your stuff, be sure that you have a witness. Take your mom. By the way, she is committing emotional abuse against you with the lies to her family. Yep, she is the abuser. And also borderline criminal. Now she's going around making false accusations. The cameras could also be violating laws. OP needs to get a police escort, get his stuff, then cut off all contact forever. Am I the a-hole for telling my mom and biological father I will always pick my dad over my bio father because my dad's my real dad? When I, 17 male, was 7 and my siblings were 9 and 10, we found out our mom was cheating on our dad. She wanted to leave dad and told him none of us were his kids. She told us too. She said the guy she was leaving to be with was our real dad, and that we should all be a family. Dad said we were his kids and that we'd do DNA tests, but it wouldn't change how he felt about us. My siblings got lucky. Dad was their biological father. But the other guy turned out to be mine, which really messed me up because I hated knowing I was connected to this random dude. Mom got what she wanted by having at least one of us be this guy's kid. I know she'd have preferred all of us, but even just me seemed to make her so happy. Dad was on my birth certificate and fought to have 50-50 custody of me, just like he had with my siblings. I think my siblings being biologically his worked in our favor with the judge deciding on this unusual custody battle and Dad sharing custody of all three of us. My mom and Vince fought the decision and they got a guardian ad litem involved, as well as someone from CPS or another agency. The decision stayed the same. It was agreed that this was the best outcome for me by the new people involved. Mom and Vince did everything they could to try and win me over to Vince. And they tried with my siblings too, but mostly with me, since Vince didn't really care about my siblings because they weren't his biological kids. None of us wanted to be with them, but we had no choice. We didn't make it pleasant for them, and I never tried to accept Vince as my dad. That was something Mom told me I should do, but I always replied that I already have a dad, and Vince would never be him. I never chose Vince over my dad, even though Vince has tried very hard to create our thing with me. I was always clear that I wasn't giving him a chance. It's a fight that has never ended. I tried to use this argument a year ago to get a judge to allow me to stay with Dad, but he ruled that I have to keep going until I'm 18, or Dad could face fines or lose custody. I might stop going a month before I turn 18 since they wouldn't be able to take it before a judge in time, but I also might keep going for Dad's sake. I don't want him punished any more than he already has been. His wife cheated on him, and he found out one of his kids isn't biologically his. Mom and Vince brought it up again last week. Vince had wanted me to go on a fishing weekend with him, and I did go. He got upset, and Mom was upset on his behalf. They said I'd go for Dad, and I said, yeah. Then they said I always pick Dad over Vince. I said, yes. They complained, and I told them I always will because Dad is my real dad. Not Vince. I said Vince will never be my dad. I told them they can't change how I feel. I said they blew up my life when they made me biologically not my dad's, and I would never forgive them. I also said I'm not a toy Vince can take out whenever he feels like it. They tried to lecture me about it, but I walked away. I kept walking away when they started saying how crappy I'm being. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. You're handling this appropriately and very maturely. In no ways are you the a-hole. It's very commendable how he's handling the situation. Opie's mom and Vince are trying to guilt-trip him into a relationship he doesn't want. His loyalty to his dad is completely justified, given how much he's done for him. Not the a-hole. Sometimes DNA means nothing. In some cases, Dad is the one who raised you, not the sperm donor. Of course that's not true all the time, but in your case it is. My wife's son chose me at 7 years old. He took my name and all I stand for. He tells everyone he's Scots-Irish. He's 100% Mexican. He's 50 now and sticking to his guns. Not the a-hole. Tell your mom she should be proud you have chosen to align with and emulate your dad versus her chosen partner. Most parents would be thankful their children are taking the ethical high ground instead of the path of least resistance. It sounds like your mom was cheating on your dad for over 10 years and then used it as a weapon to hurt your dad and try to punish him for her mistakes by removing access to his kids. She sounds spiteful, selfish, and like an emotionally unhealthy person. Next story. Am I the a-hole for not wanting to go to my stepdad's funeral? I, 20 female, recently found out my stepdad, James, passed away. And honestly, I don't want to go to the funeral. My mom and some of my family are all over me about it, saying I'm being selfish and disrespecting the dead, but I just can't bring myself to go. James married my mom when I was 7, and from day one, he made it clear he didn't want me around. He would call me a burden and say I ruined his life by trapping my mom. I swear the man only saw me as a maid or free childcare. While my mom worked long shifts to keep the house running, James would sit around barking orders at me. I wasn't allowed to be a normal kid. No friends over, no hobbies, no school activities, because there was always something I had to clean or fix. And God forbid I didn't do it perfectly. He'd yell, call me lazy, and sometimes even throw things to prove a point. It got worse as I got older. By the time I was 15, I was cooking every meal, scrubbing the house top to bottom, and basically raising my little brother. My mom would just say things like, it's his way of showing love, or his trust. The day I turned 18, I left and didn't look back. I got my own place, worked my butt off, and started building a life for myself. I've barely spoken to James in 2 years, and honestly, I didn't plan to. But now that he's gone, everyone expects me to show up like nothing happened. My brother said I should suck it up because he's not worth causing drama in the family. But I can't. The thought of sitting there listening to people talk about what a good man he was while knowing everything he put me through makes me sick. I don't even know if I'd be able to keep my mouth shut. Still, now I'm starting to feel bad. Maybe I should go just for my mom? But at the same time, I feel like it's unfair that I have to pretend this guy didn't ruin my childhood. So, am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. You have the freedom to choose what you believe is best for you. You're right, and that's what I'm going to choose no matter what anyone else says. Cut off the dead weight. Your mom hasn't supported you since you were 7 years old. You moved out and are doing good for yourself. Don't jeopardize all your hard work and mental health for people who haven't gave a damn about you since you were little. Not the a-hole. Funerals are for the living. The dead don't care. They're dead. If there is no benefit in attending it, don't attend it. There will be no benefit in attending only bad memories of my childhood. Not the a-hole. You owe your mother nothing. She's just as complicit for how you were treated. She knew that you had to do everything around the house, and she made excuses for her rotten husband. Time to make your excuses and not to go to the funeral. She never took my side and never protected me like a mother should do. Might be time to go low or no contact for a while. Best thing I ever did for myself. Maybe you're right about going no contact with the rest of them. Next story. Am I the a-hole for inviting my grandparents to see me get an award, but not my parents and step-parents? My parents divorced when I 16 male was 4. I don't know why or what their marriage was like. What I do know is that their divorce has been very competitive since they remarried other people. My dad has been married to Wendy since I was 6, and my mom has been married to Sam since I was 7. I have half siblings in both houses, 3 at my mom's and 2 at my dad's. There's also Sam's recently discovered son who's 18. Sam had no idea he existed until a couple of months ago. I love my parents. I don't always like them, but I do love them. I don't hate my step-parents. I don't feel the same way about them as I do about my parents, but I have friends with worse step-parents. Neither set, as in mom/stepdad or dad/stepmom, feels like my collective parents, and the 4 together definitely don't. My mom and dad are my parents, but sometimes I feel less like their kid and more like a pawn or something. I'm always asked what it's like at the other parent's house, even now. Questions like, do I have fun there? Do they do X? Does this happen? Then I'll get asked if I like being there. Usually, I'm also asked, would you rather live with the asking parents or the other parent? I'm also asked things like, isn't Wendy better than mom at this? Is it Sam doing more of that than dad? My step-parents are always watching how I interact with the other step-parent, and both have accused me of being more affectionate with the other. I'm also watched to see if I'm closer to my mom's other kids or my dad's other kids. When they're all in the same room, they sometimes argue over who my actual parents are. My mom's side of the family is a lot like my parents and step-parents. They talk about how I should be a mama's boy and how they're surprised I didn't choose to live with mom and Sam more. My dad is an only child, but his parents, they're the best support I could ask for. They let me vent about all 4 parents, and they've spoken up for me to both mom and dad before. They always tell me I don't need to pick sides and that it's okay if I don't feel great with either. They've said it shouldn't be that way, but it's on the adults who didn't provide me with healthy environments, not on me. Whenever there is a debate over who takes me to art or game development classes or anything related to those, I call my grandparents for help. So when I found out I was winning an award for my game development class, my grandparents were my first choice to invite, and they ended up being my only choice. My parents had no idea it was anything other than a typical class. My grandparents took me out to celebrate afterward. It took 2 weeks for Mom and Wendy to notice the photos of the awards on Facebook and realize what had happened. Now Dad and Wendy and Mom and Sam are angry that I invited my grandparents instead of them. Am I the a-hole? Now for the comments. Not a-hole. Your grandparents sound like caring, supportive, and wise people. Your parents sound like typical divorced, remarried adults who often behave more like children. I think you made a right decision about who to invite to the award ceremony. They're the ones who always step up when you need to be driven to this extracurricular activity. Inviting them to attend was a respectful and thoughtful way to honor them. Now, if it were your high school graduation, I might not be quite so quick to agree. But in this case, I think what you did was entirely acceptable. In the future, you might consider doing your parents the courtesy of letting them know beforehand what is going on and that you plan to invite just your grandparents. At 16, you're approaching adulthood, and it's expected that you exhibit some independence in certain areas. Handling things like this is a good start. Stay close to your grandparents. They sound like good people. They've been around for a while and often have good advice to share and interesting stories to tell. I didn't want them to show up and ruin it anyway. That might not be the best reason not to say anything beforehand, but I know they would just see it as a reason to show up, and then they'd fight over me again. They could have gone without me inviting them since tickets weren't required or anything. I'm seriously considering skipping my graduation ceremony in a couple of years. I could collect my diploma early like some kids do, and just skip the whole event since it would probably be more stressful than enjoyable for me. My parents and step-parents aren't great at being supportive in the moment because they're too busy fighting and competing for me. It makes me wish I didn't live with any of them. My grandparents are amazing. They tell cool stories and seem to have reached a level of maturity that I'm not sure either of my parents or step-parents will ever reach. Jesus, your life sucks. Good news is you have awesome grandparents. Just 2 more years of being a minor and you are free to carve out the life you want and know the persons you don't want to be. My life could be worse, and I totally understand that. But it sucks being caught in the middle where you have to ask whether any of the 4 actually care about me or whether they just dislike each other so much that I am an easy pawn. Last story. Am I the a-hole for declining to bring my half-brother, shared mother, to family functions on my father's side? This is an old issue between me, 40 male, and my family, but it's been brought up again due to some current family drama. Long story short, my parents had a messy divorce when I was 14. My mother really resents my dad's side of the family. She thinks they always looked down on her. On the other hand, my dad's side doesn't like her because of past issues and because she cheated on my dad before the divorce. I don't want to give too much backstory to avoid clouding the issue, but suffice it is to say the divorce was really hard on me and my younger brother. Our parents didn't want to talk to each other, so we were used as messengers and put in the middle of a crappy situation. Fast forward a couple of years, my mother remarried and had a son. My brother and I were 17 and 14 at a time, so it's not shocking that we weren't thrilled about adding a baby to the family, especially when money was already tight, and both my mom and stepdad worked. Basically, we were, voluntold, into babysitting duties a lot, and we were also expected to pull more weight around the house than I felt was fair. On top of that, there was now a screaming baby in the house. We did actively resent our new half-brother and did our best to treat him like family. As much as a 17 and 14-year-old can between school, after-school jobs, friends, girlfriends, etc. But it was a hard couple of years. My younger brother and he got kinda close, but honestly, I had one foot out the door to university and left home before he was due. I went to school far enough away that I didn't get to visit very often and never really got close to him. The issue came after I moved away from university. I'd come home to visit for the regular holidays and summers for the first couple of years. Then basically just sporadic visits once workload started to get serious. Every time I came home, I'd have maybe 3 to 4 days to visit both sides of the family. My mom's and dad's side, who both lived within a 30-minute driving radius in a small town. On top of that, I had to make time to visit my stepdad's family and try to find 5 minutes to catch up with friends. My mother would insist that my brother and I bring our half-brother everywhere with us. You don't visit that long. You need to spend as much time with him as you can. He's your brother. This included family gatherings on my dad's side. This is the sore spot. There was already a lot of tension between the sides of the family, and it was really uncomfortable bringing my half-brother to family gatherings, where it was clear he was not part of that family. They were never rude or mean to him, but he didn't have the history, didn't know the traditions, inside jokes, etc. It felt like I brought a huge neon sign that said, "Hey, check out what that woman who cheated on your son made." Besides that, I barely had enough time to visit my family on my dad's side. It felt like I was constantly missing out on catching up with them because I had to spend the whole time looking after my half-brother, who didn't know anyone there and was, frankly, a bit confused about why he was even there. After a few times, I put my foot down and told my mom I would no longer be taking my half-brother to functions on my dad's side. I explained that they weren't his family, and she had made it very clear she hated pretty much everyone on my dad's side. Honestly, I think her sending my half-brother with me was less about spending time with him and more about trying to insert herself into their lives passive-aggressively, twisting the knife in deeper. This caused a huge blowout and was probably the beginning of the long downward spiral in my relationship with my mom. Old wounds have been reopened recently, and this issue is being brought up again as the reason all this started. So what's the verdict? Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. He isn't your dad's family. There's no reason for him to go to things that involved your dad's side of the family. He isn't related to them by blood or by marriage. And if your mom hates your dad and his family so much anyway, she really shouldn't want to expose the boy, now young man, to them. Not the a-hole. You're an adult, so it's a fair decision given that mother dislikes father's folks and vice versa. Go low contact with mother if she carries on pressuring you. Harsh facts being nobody in dad's respects her because the woman is a cheater. Marriages do not always last, but it would have been better to divorce before bedding another man. We've been low contact for years. There's just stuff happening in the family. Aging grandparents, my half-brother's wedding, and other stuff that's forced contact and opened old wounds. So now 20 years of family drama is being rehashed. My wife is demanding I stop giving money to my ex. I'll start by saying that the money I give my ex is for my kids, 11, 13, and 16. I don't pay a set amount of child support every month, but I support my kids. My ex and I worked out an arrangement, had lawyers look it over, and then filed those documents with the court. Our arrangement is legal. At the end of each month, my ex and I meet to discuss the upcoming month's expenses: rent, food, school, health insurance, extracurriculars. Whatever expenses are needed for the kids, we sit down and discuss. Some months, my kids need more. Some months, they don't. I also put money aside each month for emergencies. For instance, when my ex broke her leg, I covered her while she was off work. And when her mom died and she couldn't afford to pay for her and the kids to fly to her hometown, I covered for the kids. My ex goes the extra mile for me too when I need it. When my parked car was totaled by joyriding kids, she lent me her car until I got another. Or when my wife and I had to isolate during the pandemic due to COVID, my ex did our shopping for us and even brought over some home-cooked meals. This is the type of co-parenting relationship we have, and I'm not willing to change it. It works for us, and more importantly, it works for our kids. My wife has 2 kids, 16 and 18, and her relationship with her dad is toxic. They can't be around each other without getting into arguments. Both she and her ex blame each other for the end of their relationship, and neither is willing to set aside their issues for the kids. Early on in our relationship, my wife tried to involve me, but I told her that wasn't happening. Her kids love their dad as much as they love their mom, and I didn't want to make an enemy of a man I didn't know. Now that I do know him, I see he's a good guy. The problem with the money I give my ex started earlier this year. My wife's ex lost his job. He found another, but it doesn't pay as much, so his child support was reduced because of his income change, and then reduced again when their eldest turned 18. I never asked how much child support he paid or what my wife did with it. I saw it as something between her and her ex, just like the arrangements I have with my ex is between her and me. The kids were taken care of. They didn't lack anything, and she never asked me to cover anything for them besides what I would normally pay for as their dependents under my roof. I didn't need to know more than that. But now she says she's not getting enough and doesn't have enough for things like getting her hair done, spa days, her insurance, phone, and putting gas in her car. She wants me to cover these things. I have a set amount of money coming in each month, and every dollar is accounted for. I pay for my kids, my mortgage, my bills, food, insurances, and everything I need to pay. That's a lot of money going out each month. I don't have much left for savings once that's all gone. But my wife wants what's left, and she wants me to cut back on what I give my ex. What I don't understand is, where's her money? She works part-time, still gets support from one child, and doesn't contribute financially to the household, except for takeout dinners she brings home once or twice a month. So, where is her money? We've been fighting for months about money. I view her demands to cut what I give my ex as her wanting to take from my kids. She used to have a great relationship with my kids, but now she treats them as though they're obstacles to getting what she sees as rightfully hers. I've told her repeatedly over the past few months that I'm not going to let my kids go without, so she can get her nails done. In our last argument, she told me my attitude needed to change, that I need to start putting her first, or she'd consider whether or not she wants to remain married to me. In anger, I told her to call her lawyer after she moves the heck out of my house. Am I in the wrong here? Am I the a-hole? Sounds like she needs to work full-time if she's broke. And being a product of a broken home, I want to say good for you for being what sounds like a wonderful co-parent. It makes such a difference to children when they see their parents working together. Her youngest is 16. Why is she still working part-time? And what happens when that child turns 18 and the child support ends? Will she make even more demands? Opie needs to shut this nonsense down now. Not a-hole. So you witnessed this toxic game playing with the ex, and this lack of putting her children first, and thought, wow, I want to tie myself to this woman. What a catch. Now this absolute peach wants to destroy your frankly ideal co-parenting relationship and have your children go without for her personal gain? Yeah, no. You're the a-hole for marrying this example of poor decisions, but not the a-hole for being unwilling to cave other demands. I'm imagining how unpleasant your children's experience is with her and how it never had to be that way. Get the damn divorce and be more selective about who your children are forced into relationships with. Next story. Am I the a-hole for calling my girlfriend childish and telling her to leave after she intentionally destroyed a gift that I got from my little sister? My girlfriend Megan and I live together. She had a fight with her parents and asked if we could move in together, so we did. Not too long ago, I had to take my little sister in. I can't disclose much except to say that I was her only option. When Megan and I discussed my sister moving in, Megan didn't like the idea. She mentioned that I was too young to take on such a responsibility, questioned what would happen when we eventually have our own kids, and noted that our place was too small. However, she didn't outright say she had a major issue with it. I obviously couldn't turn my back on my sister, so I went ahead with it despite Megan's reservations. Although my sister has always been friendly to Megan from the moment they met, Megan remains indifferent, which sucks because my sister really admires her and enjoys talking to her. I just thought maybe they don't connect because of my sister's age. A month ago, I bought my sister a Nintendo Switch since she's always wanted one and all her friends have one. I felt she deserved it because she does well in school, helps with chores, and is generally well behaved. She loved it and has been taking good care of it. Megan wasn't happy when I bought it. She actually sulked. Megan would borrow the Switch incessantly, and my sister never said no, maybe because she felt pressured. But Megan would use it so much that it felt like it belonged to her. My sister never complained. She would just patiently wait for her turn. Sometimes Megan would use it even when my sister was at school, saying she gets bored when I'm at work. All this made me uncomfortable, so I asked Megan to please cut back on using the Switch, as it was a gift from my sister. Megan agreed, but was clearly upset and gave us the silent treatment for the rest of the night. Last week when I came back from picking up my sister from school after work, we found her Switch broken. And that's putting it lightly. It looked deliberately smashed. My sister was devastated. When I asked Megan what had happened, she told us she accidentally dropped it. but it was obvious she was lying. When I pointed out her behavior and at times she seemed to have an issue with my sister, she got annoyed and told me everything was fine until my sister moved in. I called her childish and asked her to please pack her bags and go back to her parents' house because I needed space and time to think. This only made her more annoyed, but she eventually left. Last night, her best friend texted me to tell me that I was an a-hole for kicking Megan out, especially knowing how rocky her relationship with her parents is. Does this make me an a-hole? Not a-hole. She sounds vindictive. You deserve better. She is, and to think I thought we had a future together. She should pay to replace the switch. She is unemployed. I'm the one who is paying rent, bills, and everything else. Not the a-hole. She isn't your wife. She does not get a say in your decision to take your sister in. And she is quite frankly a despicable person for bullying and intentionally hurting an 11-year-old who looks up to her. On top of that, she sounds like a terrible partner too. You work and let her live rent-free, and she does nothing all day but play on a Switch and bully your sister? And look at that. The first time you stand up to her BS and she already ran to her friend vilifying you. Dump her like radioactive waste and tell her friend to eat glass. If she cares so much, she can take on the insufferable burden that is your ex. I spoke to her beforehand to let her know so as to not take her by surprise. I was really taken back by her reservations, but decided to give her the benefit of the doubt. Not everyone welcomes change easily, and she is an only child who doesn't understand what it's like to have siblings. But I see now that she is not a very nice person, because who would have an issue with an 11-year-old that looks up to you and is just happy to be in a stable environment, and to go as far as destroying something that she cherished and then lying about it? She just seems unstable, and I don't want her around my sister anymore. She wouldn't survive living with her friend. She always trash talks her, shaking my head. Last story. Am I the a-hole for being happy that karma is getting my ex-husband tenfold? I'm 31 female and my ex-husband is 33 male. We were married for 7 years. I was naive back then and didn't know who I was marrying. So in part, it feels like my fault for not being more vigilant or walking away much sooner. As we all know, there are two sides to every story, but those were the most miserable 7 years I ever had. Between his drinking, poor financial habits, and his constant disregard for me and our inability to communicate, I was not having a good time. There were days I'd have full mental breakdowns, and he would mock me or try to diminish who I was as a person during those episodes. He thought very highly of himself, to the point that many people who know him believe he's an actual narcissist. If you've ever dated or been married to one, then you know the emotional warfare they put you through. He would make me second-guess myself in arguments or daily conversations that I started to believe my memory was glitching. Whenever I tried to discuss him not drinking, he'd give me ultimatums about how much he should be allowed to drink, or he'd tell me I could leave if I didn't like it. I could never discuss finances with him because it always led to a big fight. Eventually, I stopped bringing it up, but we would still be in constant financial crisis month to month, even though we both had decent-paying jobs. I go out to pay for groceries he knew I was getting, check our bank account in the morning, and then by the time I'd get to the store, my card would decline. Every week, our account would be negative by hundreds. It got so bad he took out loans without my knowledge, opened credit cards, and financed things without communicating with me. Between his drinking, vaping, buying takeout instead of eating leftovers or packed lunches, loans, financing, and credit cards, we never had money. He was very verbally abusive too, and used various tactics to wear me down. From talking to me like a child when I was upset, to pushing me into a corner even when I asked to take a break from the conversation, to blowing up or acting tactfully calm to push me to my limit until I exploded. It was exhausting trying to talk to him about anything because I never knew how he would react. Don't get me started about sex. He was not nice or loving person when it came to intimacy. He was very coercive and pushy for years, despite me telling him multiple times that I struggled with intimacy due to traumatic experiences as a child and teen. The more he pressured or guilted me, the harder it was for me to feel any desire. I started feeling like something was wrong with me. When I was alone, I'd cry and ask myself why I couldn't be like other women. I was attracted to him, but it was challenging for me. He would take it personally and say things like, "Husbands and wives need to be intimate, or it's not going to work out." There was hardly ever any foreplay or warm up for me. Sometimes I just let him do what he wanted so I could be left alone afterward. It never felt loving or comfortable. He would berate me for seeking advice from friends or family. It ticked him off to no end when I reached out to people who cared about me, accusing me of talking trash about him, always playing the victim, or running off to tell everyone our business because that's what you do best. In his eyes, I couldn't talk to anyone about our business except him, or I was defying him or making him look bad. Eventually, it came to our 7-year mark where I asked for some time apart. He had stopped trying at his job and had fallen into a depression. He wanted me to support him, but he was worse than ever, and I didn't know how to keep supporting that. I wanted out. When I approached him about a separation, he was sad, but supportive at first. Then one morning, he completely flipped out on me as we were getting ready for work and demanded a divorce instead. He didn't want to try to reconcile or even consider getting back together after some time had passed. He said he didn't trust me, accusing me of wanting the separation so I could go to sleep with whoever I wanted and then come back when I was done. It couldn't have been further from the truth, but he constantly accused me of cheating. I, of course, cried and had to go to work like that, sharing our one vehicle that I paid for because he had destroyed our second car. So I endured an uncomfortable, emotional 40-minute ride to work with him, trying to keep my emotions in check for the day. It wasn't fun, but like with everything else, I kept going. In the weeks leading up to my moving out, I paid all the last month's bills in our home so he wouldn't have to. It was a nightmare. He would go from regretting me leaving to threatening me, cussing me out late at night over the phone, to being calm and forgiving again. Soon he revealed that he had slept with a coworker he was friends with while we were still married. I'd already been concerned about how close they had become over the last 3 years, with him confiding in her about our marriage and constantly defending and supporting her. I wasn't surprised, but I was still angry when he used it to rub my nose in it. Mind you, our divorce hasn't been finalized, and I had only moved out a few weeks earlier, leaving him with almost everything except my car. This relationship didn't work out. Shocking, I know, which led him to try coming back months later. When I denied him and made it clear it was over, he freaked out. He stalked my house, threatened me, harassed my family, and eventually I had to call the police on him. Since then, he got a better job, bought his own car, and planned to move out of our old house. He rubbed his new job in my face and told me he'd be fine without me. Recently, I heard he got his car repossessed, was evicted from our old house before he could move, lost his fancy job, and now lives with a roommate somewhere I don't know. On top of that, Aaron's, a furniture financing store, called me because somehow I'm still listed as one of his contacts. They were trying to reach him before taking him to court for theft because he hadn't paid a cent and moved without informing them. After all he put me through, I laughed myself silly. But a small part of my conscience still feels bad for him because he was someone I loved and spent many years with. Though in the end, he did me the biggest favor I could ever ask for by telling me he wanted that divorce. Thank God. Question. You listed a mountain of bad things that he did to you and then you say that he didn't try to reconcile with you, as though you wanted him to? Back then I did, but since being without him and going to therapy, I strongly recognize how unhealthy that was for me. Fully leaving an abusive relationship can be extremely hard when you feel weird attachments to the person. You're not the a-hole for feeling relief and even joy at his misfortunes. After enduring so much emotional turmoil, it's natural to feel that karma is finally catching up with him. You deserve to celebrate your freedom and the closure that comes with it. Your happiness is valid. Honestly, if joy were a crime, you'd be serving life without parole right now after all that emotional roller coaster. You deserve to ride this wave of happiness like it's the last ride of an amusement park hobby. You didn't love him. You loved who he fooled you into believing he was. He was never that loving person. It was a mask, and after he had you, he took off the mask. What he did was deliberate and calculated, for his amusement and gain. Stop feeling any guilt, please. Not the a-hole. This is a good point. I definitely felt tricked for a long time and found myself arguing with him in terms of who he was when we first met versus who he became shortly after getting married. It was always the way he truly was, and I couldn't see it. Small edit/update. I have since gotten an incredible job, a new car, and I live on my own. For years, he made me feel like I could never do it, that I wouldn't be able to stand on my own 2 feet without him or ever be independent. I was wrong to believe him back then, and he was wrong to underestimate me. I did not expect so much positive outreach, so thank you for that, everyone. It has been a roller coaster and a journey for me, but having so much support is such a beautiful thing. Thank you again a million times over. Am I the a-hole for leaving everything I own to my goddaughter instead of my daughter? I, 45 female, divorced my ex-husband when my daughter Kelly, 21 female, was around 12, after I caught him cheating for the second time. Literally everyone was against it, and I knew the in-laws wouldn't like it because they're traditional conservatives who didn't want to deal with a public scandal. But it was hurtful to me that my own family was trying to pressure me to stay in the marriage in order to not lose access to the money and perks my ex had provided. Examples. While we were married, my ex helped my brother get a nice job with a high salary and nice benefits, paid off my sister's credit card debts, and bought my parents really lavish gifts. The first time I caught him cheating, I wanted out back then, but my family convinced me to forgive him, and that I owed it to Kelly to fight for her to have the stability of a 2-parent household. My daughter was only a few weeks old at a time, and I was in a very vulnerable state. So I agreed and felt so stupid when my ex did it again. But this time there wasn't a "you weren't performing your wifey duties since you got pregnant" excuse anymore. And this time I wasn't going to be deterred and continued with the divorce. In truth, I wanted to keep Kelly out of this as much as possible. But my in-laws and my own parents poisoned her against me by painting me as a hypocrite for telling her how important forgiveness is, but that I wasn't willing to forgive Daddy even when he was really sorry. I was distraught. I honestly don't think I would have made it through if it weren't for my best friend Tina, who was my rock. In the end, I got a nice settlement and some alimony, but didn't get custody. I tried my hardest to still be in Kelly's life, but by the time she was a teen and she was fully convinced that I was the bad guy and told the courts she didn't want to see me anymore. I was heartbroken, but kept reaching out. During that time, I also managed to go back to school. I was studying accounting and managed to get a high-paying job of my own and have a nice life for myself. The same can't be said for my ex, who was sued by a former employee and fired by his company. Because he was so embarrassed, my ex burned through his savings trying to keep up his lifestyle, which included Kelly's college fund. Suddenly, she wanted contact again. But I won't lie and say that I wasn't hurt at the idea of her only wanting contact was for my money. I'd agreed to pay for her to go to grad school on the condition that she signed an agreement that she won't contest my will where I'm leaving most of that I owned to Tina's daughter, Laura, 18 female. The few relatives that I'm still on good terms with think that this will damage any chance at rebuilding a relationship with Kelly, and that I should just split everything equally. However, I don't want to have the type of relationship with Kelly that I feel like I have to pay for. Am I the a-hole? Edit. Because I keep seeing this in comments and messages, I'll clarify here as best as I can while still trying to maintain some privacy. 1. I didn't get custody, but I did get visitation. And when Kelly was 14 to 15, she told the courts she didn't want to visit me anymore. 2. My ex came from money and had a good income, which meant he had better lawyers and the aid of my brother and parents during the divorce. 3. Not too long after the divorce, my brother lost his job. I'm not sure what happened, and I never cared to ask. 4. I'm no contact with my brother and very low contact with my parents and sister. 5. Tina is my documented power of attorney. Should there ever be a situation where I can't make legal decisions for myself and vice versa. 6. Alimony is not child support, so that's why I was able to get it. Now for the top comments. Not stay home. Your daughter has always been against you because of your family, and now at the moment when things aren't looking good, she wants contact. Ignore her. And your family basically wanted you to stay because they wanted his money. Yep. Not too long after the divorce, my brother was let go, and my sister was on the verge of filing for bankruptcy. Guess who got the blame? especially when I wouldn't use some of the divorce money to help out the family. How on earth did your sister manage to get so close to bankruptcy when her debts were paid off? That's her own fault. The brother being let go? If it were wrongful termination, then he should have sued. They were just making you the scapegoat. Honestly, I wouldn't have given the daughter a dime. There are many ways you can be sure she can't contest the will. Obviously, you've already done what you've done. But going forward, you just do what's best for you. Not day haul, but there's a lot to unpack here. Does Kelly know what exactly happened? Is her missing college funds the only reason why she reached out to you? Or is it her being an adult and finally realizing fully what's going on? At the time, she didn't. But once the divorce was over, I did explain the situation. But she didn't believe me. If you're asking me if my daughter has come out right and said that all she wants me for is my money, then no. However, looking at the timing of her wanting to actually speak to me again, and seeing how the majority of our limited talks is about her schooling and her financial concerns, I'm inclined to believe so. I honestly would feel a bit better if she did sign the agreement and continued speaking to me as proof that I'm not just a checkbook to her. Sorry to say this, OP, but I think she wants to take advantage of you now that the tables have turned. If her dad would have been loaded still, would she have reached out to you? I wouldn't give her the money, not even with that agreement. But if you do want to help her out, make her sign that agreement. Honestly, that's where I'm leaning more towards. I'm prepared to accept the reality that I'm just a checkbook to my daughter, but hoping she will sign the agreements as proof that she actually misses me and wants to reconnect. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for refusing to do a DNA test? My dad found out my mom was cheating and she won't say with who or when, but we know it's likely around the time she was on a stay-at-home mother. The thing is, she had all of us, 2 brothers, 1 sister, around the same time, so any of us could not be my father's. He's divorcing my mother and wants us to take a DNA test to prove we're his children. Otherwise, he isn't paying for our college. He promised to do so before this, and all of us have been counting on it. My sister, oldest, did a test because she was confident she was related to our dad. She was likely pre-cheating. She looks the most like him, so I was pretty sure she was. She's also in college and is relying on our dad. It is going to keep paying because of the results of the paternity test came back positive. I have a feeling I'm not my dad's biological kid, since I don't look anything like him, and people even commented I don't look like the rest of my family. I'm terrified because I think he's upset enough that he won't talk to me anymore, and definitely won't be paying for my college. I don't want to take the paternity test because I don't want to know. But if I don't, I probably won't get college paid for. The money isn't in a college fund, but set aside as investments my dad has. It isn't going to my mom in the divorce proceedings probably. I don't know how things will go, and I'm starting college in September. I stupidly picked a pretty expensive school because I thought my dad would pay for it. I decided it was okay, but now even if my mom was willing to, I don't think she can afford it. I'm so mad at her and my dad for putting me in this position. I've told him I'm not doing the test and he said that's okay, but he will just assume I'm not his, and not have anything else to do with me once since I'm 18 already. I'm living with my mom but not talking to her because of this. So you're 18 and just found out your dad may not be your dad, and he's punishing you for something beyond your control. Not an a-hole. Your mother is clearly an a-hole. Your dad is being an a-hole to treat you as a stranger if you're not getting a DNA test. This is a no-win for OP. Even if it turns out he is DNA related, he'll always know his dad was willing to throw him away over a piece of paper. He already threw him away. I've told him I'm not doing the test and he said that's okay, but he will assume I'm not his and not have anything else to do with me once since I'm 18 already. I'm sorry, OP. Of course not, a-hole. Not a-hole. Your parents suck. I would have the DNA test done personally just to find out. And if you aren't your dad's, try to figure out who your bi-dad is. It will help later down the line if your doctors ever have any hereditary health questions. You don't have to now for sure, but I eventually would once I came to terms with it. I am so sorry you are going through this. That is so awful to deal with as a 17 or 18-year-old kid. Go to the college you think will be best for your future. I funded my own college. My parents didn't pay a dime, and you can do it. It's harder, but you are capable. Was going to say exactly this. Take the test for yourself, OP. It's info you may really need in the future. It is so unfair for your dad to do this. He still raised you for Pete's sake. He just sounds like he wants to hurt your mom through you kids. Oh, hun. Of course you're not the a-hole. But what are you gaining by not taking it? Is there anyone you can talk to? Your dad is being awful. I can't imagine being willing to walk away from my child. And you are his child, whatever a blood test says. My mom is trying to get me to not take it. I think because she knows I'm a result of her cheating. I think you should take it honestly. So long as there's a question mark, there will always be strain on things because of what your mom has done. Your best bet to salvage the relationship with your dad is to talk to him personally. Tell him that you're scared of what the outcome could be, and then take it with him. Even if you end up not being his, if he ever loved you at all, you may be able to move past it if he can recognize that it isn't your fault, only hers. Edit. After reading some of the comments, I've decided to do the test. I didn't want to out of fear, but now it's clear it doesn't really matter and it's better I know for sure. Next story. Am I the a-hole for saying my parents should have stopped having kids when they started realizing they're all autistic? So I'm 16 female, I'm the oldest of 8, and the youngest 6 have a combination of autism and oppositional defiance disorder. If you have ADHD, and 4 out of the 6 are nonverbal with high support needs, I'm expected to help out. And have pretty much been emotionally neglected since age 6, when my parents started popping out more kids. So, due to everyone's sensory issues and for the sake of routine, Christmas hasn't been done in our house since I was 8, and that includes for me. Birthdays aren't really done either, and my parents spend so much time trying to keep everyone under control that myself and my normal brother 7 male miss out on just about everything. Last Saturday was my birthday, and I stupidly decided to ask my parents for something I've been wanting for a while. But I don't get an allowance and can't work due to helping out at home, so I can't save for it. It's not expensive, but it is out of my price range. They said no, expectedly, and reminded me for routine's sake we don't do birthdays in this family. I said I know, but maybe we could keep it to the 3 of us and do something away from them for once. They said no, and that I need to tailor my life to suit theirs, unfortunately. I kind of snapped. It may be years of built-up resentment or because I was in a bad mood, but I said that I don't understand why they keep having kids just to make their neurotypical kids suffer more each time. They should have stopped after they had 2 diagnosed with autism. Neither parent is talking to me right now, and I'm starting to believe I was the a-hole and made an ableist remark. Am I the a-hole? Now for the comments. Oh, sweetie, you are not the a-hole. I have 2 siblings on the spectrum. My mom never made me responsible or made me make sacrifices for her other kids. She made things work for all of us to the best of her ability. Your parents need to seek outside help, not to expect their neurotypical children to accommodate and make sacrifices, essentially making you guys become third parents. I hope you have someone you can talk to, like another trusted family member or adult. Please reach out if you can. This is not even remotely okay. Honestly, it's cruel to take a childhood away like this. I feel for Opie. It's horrible what is being done to her, and hopefully she can get out of there quickly. Not stay home. Having 8 kids is a terrible idea in general. Also, you need to honestly have your own life. Your parents seem to be pushing responsibilities on you. Well, the kids are their responsibility, not yours. You should definitely try to find a job really soon. Agreed, but the parents need Opie to stay at home dependent on them as an unpaid caregiver, babysitter, and maid for them. They have no intention of letting her go ever, and have a life of her own. They have already told her so. I need to tailor my life to suit theirs, unfortunately. Not stay home. Your siblings are your parents' children to raise. If they need help, they should look into live-in help or long-term care facilities. I think a little rebellion is in order. Stop helping them raise your siblings and get a job. Save every penny and move out when you turn 18. Sorry you were dealt selfish parents, and an unfortunately difficult situation to grow up in. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for telling my sister-in-law to stop trying to guilt us by calling it a bonding experience every time she wants her kids involved in something? In general, my sister-in-law is fine. I don't love her, but she's generally not awful. She just thinks that everything should revolve around kids, and that everything that anyone does with her kids is a bonding experience, and those are all so important. If anyone in the family is doing anything, she wants the kids to be involved. Even if we want it to be just adults, she starts guilting us. There are some things that's totally appropriate for. Things like baking cookies? Sure, bring the kids. Building snowmen? Sure. Decorating for Christmas? Okay. But for example, when my husband, her brother, and I were going on a hiking trip, she kept asking us to take the girls, as it would introduce them to the outdoors and be a great bonding experience. We said no. This was our couple time, not family time. She got all stinky about it, and even tried to send them over with bags bagged in an attempt to guilt us into it. We mentioned over the holidays that we were going to be building a new addition to our home, and she immediately lit up and said how it would be a great bonding experience if we got the kids involved. Husband shot this down. It's something that he and I are working on together to make our home ours. Neither of us wants to have to watch kids with tools and hammers and nails, keep them on track, deal with the whining when they get bored, etc. She kept pushing about how maybe this would inspire her kids to take an interest in building or hands-on work, and it'll be a great bonding experience. I said, can you stop with the "it'll be a good bonding experience" every time you want to guilt someone into involving your kids? She got defensive and said that in a normal family, people would want to spend time with the kids. It wouldn't be seen as a burden. I said it's not a burden, but brought up our hiking trip as an example, and said that it was intended for me and my husband to just hike, fool around outdoors, maybe drink a little in the tent and relax. She got pissy and was like, well, look at you, having all the time in the world to hook up but no time to spend with your family. We do spend time with family. We do spend time with the kids. We have even endured the god-awful family vacation with the kids just to make everyone happy. But we don't have kids, and we don't want everything in our life to revolve around kids. Sister-in-law is still upset about this, and keeps making passive-aggressive remarks about it to anyone who'll pay her attention. Am I the a-hole for saying that? Is free babysitting called bonding now? Yep. It's a better marketing plan. Family members, are more likely to agree to unwanted babysitting when they feel guilty about saying no. She is straight up trying to pawn the kids off every chance she gets. Her own argument doesn't make sense. I'll fix her sentence for Opie's argument's sake. In a normal family, a mother would want to spend time with her kids. They wouldn't be seen as a burden. Having the excuse for bonding is just her way of getting them out of her sight. Really sad. Not stay home. If you wanted kids around constantly, you'd have had your own. Seems like she's just looking to get some time away from her own kids by dumping them off on you, assuming she wasn't planning on hiking and helping with home renovations too. This was my thought exactly. She's trying to get free childcare. Not stay home. Your sister-in-law is upset because her plan to pawn her kids off on you isn't working. It's a super entitled attitude, and you're right. They aren't your kids and you don't need to revolve your life around them.